Namaste. My name is Ronnie Baba, and I want to share with you in this video some information about the Yamas and Niyamas. These profound principles were first introduced to the world, to humanity, by Sage Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras. And besides sharing some information about the Yamas and Niyamas, what I would also like to do is to share some practical ideas in terms of how we might be able to integrate these profound principles into our lives. So please stay tuned and enjoy this video on the Yamas and Niyamas. The Yamas and Niyamas were first introduced to humanity by Sage Patanjali, who wrote about them in the Yoga Sutras. They are fundamental ethical principles that serve as guidelines for how to live a meaningful and purposeful life, while fostering harmony with oneself and with others. By following these principles, we can cultivate a sense of peace, purpose, and spiritual growth. And by integrating these teachings into our lives, we are able to bring about profound personal transformation and spiritual growth. The Yamas are the 5 moral restraints or ethical standards that govern how we interact with the world around us. The first is ahimsa, or non-violence. This principle encourages us to abstain from harm, both physically and emotionally, towards ourselves and towards others. It highlights the importance of compassion and kindness in thoughts, words, and deeds. We can integrate the principle of ahimsa into our life by practicing kindness in our daily interactions. For example, if someone is rude to us, instead of responding with anger, we can choose to react with patience and understanding. We can also apply this principle by being gentle with ourselves, avoiding negative self-talk, and promoting self-compassion. The second is satya, or truthfulness. This principle emphasizes the significance of honesty and integrity. Practicing truthfulness involves being truthful in all aspects of life, while also recognizing when to speak the truth and when it may be wiser to remain silent. A practical way of implementing the principle of satya into our lives could be making a commitment to always speak honestly in all of our relationships. If someone asks us for our opinion about something, instead of trying to please them with our answer, we should rather be absolutely truthful in terms of our feedback, in such a way that we honor both our truth and their feelings. Also, we should always strive for transparency in all that we do, openly communicating rather than being evasive. The third principle is asteya, or non-stealing. This principle goes beyond just refraining from theft. It encompasses the avoidance of taking anything that is not freely given, whether it be time, energy, or intellectual property, promoting respect for others' rights and contributions. A way to integrate the principle of asteya into our lives could be to always be respectful of the intellectual property of others by giving credit for ideas that aren't ours. We can also apply this principle by not taking up more time in conversations than we deserve, and by being mindful of not utilizing resources without permission from others. The fourth principle is brahmacharya, or celibacy, or moderation. This principle has traditionally been interpreted as celibacy, but is now often seen as the practice of moderation in all areas of life, which includes sexuality, consumption, and desires. It encourages a balanced approach to prevent excess and maintain focus on spiritual goals. We can integrate this principle of brahmacharya into our life by practicing moderation in the use of technology and by simplifying our consumption by only buying what we truly need rather than accumulating unnecessary items. The fifth principle is aparigraya, or non-possessiveness. This principle refers to the practice of letting go of attachments and desires for possessions. It encourages living with a sense of detachment from material wealth and physical accumulation, promoting a sense of freedom and peace. We can apply this principle by decluttering our home and by giving away items that we no longer use. This practice reflects a mindset of detachment from material possessions. We can also apply this principle to our relationships by allowing others to have their own space, to make their own life choices without us clinging or trying to control outcomes. We now move on to the Niyamas, which are personal observances that focus on our internal world, promoting self-discipline and spiritual growth, and they include the following. The first principle is saucha, or purity. This principle involves cleanliness of body and mind. It encourages the removal of impurities, both physically through proper hygiene and mentally by cultivating positive thoughts and emotions. Besides maintaining physical cleanliness, we can deepen this principle in our lives by establishing routines which include mindfulness and meditation to cleanse our mind of negativity. We can also become more aware of all the things in our life which we are grateful for. It can also be helpful to regularly organize our living space to promote a serene, peaceful, and calm environment. The second principle is santosha, or contentment. Santosha is about finding happiness and contentment in the present moment, regardless of external circumstances. It teaches the value of gratitude and acceptance, encouraging us to appreciate what we have. We can integrate the principle of santosha into our life by practicing gratitude on a daily basis. By taking some time each day to reflect on at least 3 things that we are grateful for, regardless of how small they may seem, can go a long way to combat feelings of lack, and this helps us to appreciate the current situation in our lives. The third principle is tapas, or discipline. Tapas is about self-discipline and the willingness to undergo hardship for the sake of personal growth. It promotes practices that build resilience and strength, whether through physical exertion or mental focus. A simple way to integrate discipline into our lives could be to establish a daily exercise or yoga routine that challenges us but still remains sustainable. Alternatively, we could commit to establishing a meditation routine. Tapas can also be reflected in the discipline to pursue challenging goals or skills, even when faced with obstacles. The fourth principle is svadhyaya, or self-study. This principle emphasizes the importance of self-reflection and learning. It encourages us to study the sacred texts, to engage in personal introspection, and to seek a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe. We can integrate this principle into our lives by dedicating time to read and reflect on spiritual or philosophical texts that we resonate with. We might keep a journal where we record our thoughts, feelings, and experiences, enabling deeper self-understanding. We can also engage in satsangs, discussions, or workshops that encourage self-reflection. The fifth principle is Ishvara Pranidhana, or the surrender to a higher power. This principle involves dedicating oneself to a higher power, to a higher purpose or divine presence. It encourages us to let go of the illusion of control and to trust in the plan of the universe, fostering a sense of peace and surrender. We can integrate this principle into our lives by incorporating prayer and meditation practices that acknowledge a greater force in our life. Learning to trust that our life is unfolding exactly as it should, especially during difficult times, reflects this principle in a most profound way. When we find ourselves feeling anxious and in need of control, we can learn to consciously let go, reflecting on the acceptance of life's inherent uncertainties. The Yamas and Niyamas together form the ethical foundation for a yogic lifestyle, promoting harmony within oneself and with others. By following these principles, we can cultivate a sense of peace, purpose, and spiritual growth in our lives. Integrating these teachings into our daily practices can lead to profound transformation and enhanced personal well-being and the fostering of positive relationships with the world at large. Thank you for having joined me in this video, and thank you for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the Yamas and Niyamas. Please subscribe so that you can be kept up to date with further profound spiritual discussions and teachings. Namaste.